Welcome to the HU Movemakers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Welcome to the HU Movemakers podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the legacy of Howard University at the highest levels. Today, I got one of my predecessors, classmates. She was at Howard in the School of B with me. Such a pleasure to have her on the show. I want to run down her credentials real quick because it's really thick. Man, such a pleasure to have her on the show. A native of Charlotte, North Carolina. What do I start? School of B, Alpha Kappa Alpha Chapter. But two-time Howard University. Got her MBA from Howard and she got her bachelor's from Howard. Works at Fannie Mae, senior program manager in the COO's office. That's heavy. I want to ask you about what it's like to work with folks in the C-suite. I wonder what that's like. A ton of awards. Pearl and Ivy Educational Foundation President's Award. Deloitte Consulting Federal Practice Applause Award 2 times. The Junior League of Washington Chair Extraordinaire Award. Go ahead, girl. 2013. Howard University School of Business Top 40 Under 40 Emerging Business Leaders. That's dope. That's dope. National Association of Women MBAs. But the one that I thought was the best award on here was the one that she got from Howard University. And I think that was MBA of the Year Award. They don't just hand those out. She must have gave some crazy amount of money or did something really dope. But anyway, LaTonya Clark, welcome to the show. So happy to have you on here. I think I've known you for like 20 years. It's just so great to have you on the show. So before the show, we was talking about, some of your credentials, obviously, and, where I wanted to start. So tell me about this MBA or Alumni of the Year Award. Of all the alumni that come through the School of Business, especially at that level, what made you so worthy of that award? A little girl from Charlotte. How'd you get that?
I'm still asking myself that. Like, how did I get here? But the MBA Alumni of the Year Award, that was given last year, 2019. And it was the first time that the MBA program did it. And they really wanted to honor alumni as well as help the current students that were about to graduate to be able to have something to look forward to and to start building up their love and commitment for Howard. So I believe that they sent out a call for nominees, and then they took maybe like the 2 or 3 top nominees, and then you had to vote. And then there was an award ceremony. So I did not know I was getting the award.
Really?
All I knew was I needed to be at the award ceremony, which I was going to go anyway because it was just an end of year reception to support the current students that were graduating, as well as an opportunity for Howard alumni, especially that lived in the area, that had come back and fellowship and support the university. So that's why I was going. I was completely shocked. I had no idea that they were calling my name to come up on the stage.
Man, Alpha Chapter, Howard University School of Business, MBA of the Year Award. And that's the first ever award that they gave out of that type?
Yes.
And not only that, this is Dean Harvey's last year, right? Or was that last year?
Yep. He will step down as dean, I believe, June 30th, the last day of the fiscal year.
So how dope is that to get that award when you matriculate through the School of Business circa 98, 97, something like that? You come in and then, a few years later, you get recognized in that fashion, especially, you think about the people that have come through the School of Business. You think about the instructors that we had, the major influences that we've had. Harold, Mr. Gray was a big influence for me. I'm sure, Dean Harvey, big influence for you. I'm sure he had his hand in that to be like, yo, this who needs that award. Because, it's some dope people that have come through the School of Business.
Absolutely.
What does that mean?
More people that are coming right behind us.
How did you feel to get that award, though? And the first one at that?
I think when I went up on stage, I mean, I had no idea what was going on, but I know in that moment, the only thing I could think of to say was thank you. And to let people know that you can get as many awards as you want and raises and promotions on your job, but it's nothing like being recognized by your own people.
Mm,
And
nothing
I
like
was
it.
really, really humbled by that. And I remember I told the audience of people off the cuff, I said, I don't know how and why I got this honor, but I wanted to say thank you. And to no matter what, anybody out there, you can always give back something to Howard University or any school that you go to. You can give your time, your treasure, your talent, any of those things. Universities will take it. They appreciate it. And I think it's also your moral compass. It is your responsibility to do that. You do not have to live in Washington, D.C. to be at Howard giving back. There are so many things that you can do, but you have to be able to take the step forward and make the ask. So, and most importantly, when they call you to do something, you have to say yes.
So I take it they called on you several times.
Yes. And so
and you always took the call.
Bernard Sapel, who is the director of the MBA program, I really have to give her a lot of props because she is a silent cheerleader in the background, but she is making moves and moving people and moving all the pieces around for the MBA program. And every year she calls me like June, July, and she's like, hey, can you present at the orientation? Can you be a judge for the case competition? And I always say yes, because that is such a small piece of my time.
They never call me.
You know what? We're gonna.
They never call me. They never hit me up. But you know what? I did get a similar award in 2010. That emergingly.
Oh right, yeah.
And like you said, I got it with Lloyd, who's in Phi Sig. Yep. Natalie Cofield. I remember we got that award, and I remember thinking to myself, like, out of every award I've ever gotten, this one means the absolute most because it's from Howard. You know what I mean? And right. Howard just always holds a special place. Mm-hmm. So you're from Charlotte, right?
Charlotte,
North Carolina. Two sisters. Okay. So take me back to Charlotte. What is LaTonya like as a young lady in Charlotte?
Oh Lord, let me switch my brain here. Charlotte is my home. It always is home. I always stop and reflect from time to time that I have actually spent more years of my life outside of Charlotte at this point than living in Charlotte, because when I graduated from high school in 1997, West Charlotte, class of 1997, I came to Howard. And that started me on my course of life. And of course, people move back home. Of course, you move around. But I actually, when I graduated from Howard, when I graduated from West Charlotte, came to Howard, that started me on my trajectory of life. And so all of what, even those first 18 years of life, my family, we were totally immersed into Girl Scouts, church, Jack and Jill, all of the handbell choir. I mean, my mother made it a priority that those were going to be activities that we were going to do and actually be able to enjoy, because those really are those skills that you learn in those groups, and taking the piano, making sure that you go to the lessons every week at Miss Jones's School of Music. All of those things, it just seemed like a burden at the time, but really it's just to help shape you, to help you get on the road of life. So when they was
making you do all of those things, because right now I do that with my kids, and I'll be like, man, I hope they don't hate me, because they be like, Daddy, I don't want to do it. You see the benefits now, like you reflect, like, damn, okay, that really helped me now.
Absolutely, because you learn how to deal with other people, how to be on a schedule, how to be responsible, how to have a commitment and see everything through.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing when I remember in high school, I was in AP English, and it was so hard at the time. I remember thinking, this is just so hard. I can't, this is too much, because we did a lot of reading, we did a lot of writing, and we were reading like the classics and doing Shakespeare and reading Zora Neale Hurston. Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I couldn't get it. I didn't understand it, because at 17, 18, you just don't have enough life experiences to be able to analyze. But Dr. Kaiser, my 12th grade English teacher, who I still remember to this day, it prepared me for when I walked into college English.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to ace it because I already built that muscle. So all of those things that you do, like what you have your children to do at such an early age, is building the muscle. So when you get to college, especially when you get to a large campus like Howard University, people come from all over the world. You might be the only person from your hometown. I think it was just me and 3 other people from my high school that was at Howard.
Is this a black high school?
Yes, it is.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Yep.
It sounds to me like your parents were intentional about surrounding you in that talented 10th Black excellence, experience, even at a young age.
Yeah. So coming to Howard was, and I think a lot of people have this story. I think a lot of people don't have this story, and that's okay. So my transition into Howard was, I wouldn't say the word seamless, because I think it's difficult for anybody to walk onto a college campus, but it softened the blow. So
Man.
I was able to transition in really well. So that's why when I came to Howard, I immersed myself into the Howard experience.
I got a question for you. What do you think about people that say like Jack and Jill is just like bougie Negroes? What do you think? I'm asking, we're doing Jack and Jill right now. I love it. But on the other side, I have heard those comments. And to me, I understand where they're coming from, but I want to get your thoughts.
I would disagree with that. I think that also too, sitting here as an adult now in 2020, my experience in Jack and Jill was much, much different back in the late 90s. I think that social media, all those things play into a certain type of rhetoric, right? But I had a great experience. And again, it is starting to be the foundation of helping you and your children to be able to start building life experience and skills, and be able to be around all different types of people. So I totally support it. I am a organizational girl, that's just who I am, but it doesn't feel like a burden to me, because it's something that I enjoy and that I genuinely want to be a part of. So
yeah, no, we love it too. I mean, the stuff they have my son doing, and he's not doing it by himself. That's what I kind of like about it. He's, because sometimes when you just hear your parents telling you to do something, that message can get lost. But then when he sees other kids doing it, it's totally different. So I love it. I love it. But I was just surprised that some people thought that way, because growing up, to me, when I grew up, I wasn't in Jack and Jill, but I just thought they had all the pretty girls. So I was at all the Jack and Jill parties. I had a few friends that were in it, but when it came like the parties, I was like, but I didn't know that it was like a thing to get in it. But yeah. Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. Was Howard the only school that you looked at?
No, I applied to 3 schools: Howard, Spelman, and Fannie. That's it.
Did you get in all of them?
I got into all of them, and I got into all of them maybe like November, December of my senior year. And I have to tell this story because I tell this.
Please tell it, please.
Howard, Spelman, FAMU. I went to, I was going to go to Spelman. I went to, what's the weekend is called? Whatever, like the pre-weekend is called.
At Spelman?
At Spelman, yes. And I was just like, yes, I'm going here. I can envision myself with the white dress, going through the arc, at Sister's Chapel. I was like, yes, I'm here. Of course, it was on a weekend. It was nice. It was sunny. It was like on a Friday. So all the people from Morehouse and from Clark and from Spelman were outside, like Market Friday. I was like, yes, I'm about Market Friday.
I heard Market Friday is lit.
I am coming here. Atlanta, welcome your sister from the Queen City. All of that happened into Spellbound. That's what it was called, Spellbound. So nice. I did all that. And now it's time to like make a decision. But I never heard anything else from Spelman other than I got in and I went to Spellbound. That's it. I had no other information. This is before the internet. This is before when you would do things online. And my mom was like, well, do you want to drive down to Atlanta? Let's go figure it out. I was just like, no, because right then and there, like literally I think the housing deposit was due at Howard. So it was at the end of March. So we made the housing deposit and I moved on with my senior year. It is now time to go to college. Every freshman across the country goes to college August 15th. It is August 14th. We are packing up on Mama's Volvo to drive to DC. And I don't remember this, but my dad always tells me he checked the mail one more time. And in the mail was a package from Spelman College. And it had in there all like what my schedule was going to be, who my roommate was going to be, all these things. But I mean, my trunk was packed to go to Howard, so I moved on. So I say all that.
So you had chose Spelman over Howard.
But I say all that.
I'm disappointed.
I chose it during Spellbound time in Market Friday.
Did you not visit Howard though?
I did visit Howard. But I had my aunt and uncle lived in DC, so I would come to DC often. So I had been exposed to Howard's campus already. And I'm trying to think if I went on a formal college tour. I don't remember. But anyway, the point is you land where you're supposed to land. I was not supposed to go to Spelman College. The stars were not lined up properly for me to go there. Everything was seamless for me to go to Howard. So I say all that to say you land where you're supposed to land. The trajectory that you go on is the one that you're supposed to be on. So I tell young people this all the time, like, don't get like all bunched up if, your first choice doesn't end up being your first choice, because whatever path you're supposed to be on, hence why The Alchemist is one of my favorite books. Like the journey that you're supposed to be on is for you, for your own self-fulfillment. So luckily my journey, think about it. If I didn't go to Howard, I would have never met you. We wouldn't be sitting here talking.
You're right about that.
I would have never met Tamika, G and Amber, and Cassandra, like,
I know, man.
My people, like.
That's true. And it's funny how things work out. And it's good to hear that Howard ain't the only one with administrative issues when it comes to.
But I have friends that went to Spelman who said that they had the same exact experience.
I'm sure you
Howard,
did. I'm sure, I didn't get my acceptance letter to Howard until like my junior year of Howard. So, it's all good.
You got all the bills timely though.
Bills is on time. Them boys on time. This is pre-Tyrone too, so you can't get mad at him about none of that. Tell me about your parents. It sounds like these are some educated people who were intentional about making sure that their kids had the best, because you mentioned piano. Those aren't things that you typically hear Black folks putting their kids in. Not to say it doesn't happen, but I interview a lot of people and you hear all type of stories about X, Y, and Z. So tell me briefly about type of people your parents are, what type of background and work they do.
My grandparents, I think it's because my grandparents went to college.
Oh.
And so my grandparents went to college in 1939. They graduated from college in 1939, 1937. I mean, my grandmother was born in 1917.
Okay.
And my grandfather was born in he was 2
See,
years.
The fact that you're able to recall these dates, I mean, that's pretty amazing. Don't you think? My grandmother was born in 1917. Like, people don't know their history, their family history like that.
Yeah.
Especially Black people.
Grandmother lived to be 101.
Oh, so she probably drilled that into y'all heads.
Yeah. So she passed away in 2018. So
oh man, rest in peace.
Yes, thank you. So it was shortly after her 101st birthday.
Damn.
And so the fact that my grandmother, when you stop and think about it, in 1917, my grandmother was born.
Yeah.
And it was a total of 13 brothers and sisters. And all 13 were educated. Now, how
Wow.
all 13 educated? It was because they had parents who saw the value in education, even, you know, in 1917.
Where is she from?
She is from Carthage, North Carolina.
Okay.
So, and her mother was, my great grandmother was a midwife and, you know, a homemaker, and my great grandfather, he was like a sharecropper.
Got you.
So I mean, these people were very, I mean, they fundamentally supported. I mean, when my grandmother went to college, then we can move on, but when my grandmother went to college, she and my great aunt went together. They went to North Carolina School for Negroes, which is now North Carolina Central
for
University.
Negroes.
Yeah, because think about it, you could only go to college to be a teacher, a nurse, or a preacher. That is how Black people were educated. So when my grandmother and my great aunt went to school, it cost $75 a semester.
And they had to scrap for that $75 too.
And my grandmother said that was a lot of money. So when you have, you know, grandparents who can, you know, tell these stories, and it starts, you have to let it sink in. And, you know, I think about when my grandmother was like 90, I think my mother recorded her doing like an oral history. Wow. I need to ask her where that is. But I mean, I think back at why that was so important, because, you know, she's moved on. You know, she has transitioned, and she was the last of all her siblings to live. So when you have all that history, you have to mark it. Whatever your family history is, you have to mark it for the ages.
Absolutely.
Really, for generations.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I think all of that led into how, you know, my parents, you know, raised us. Same thing, like, so that was my maternal grandmother. Now my paternal grandmother, my grandma Ruby, she was not educated.
Okay.
She had up until a high school diploma, and that's it. But she had, you know, she had a hustle spirit about her, and I never forget. Now she lived till she was 90, and she, they were, you know, born and raised in the eastern part of North Carolina, migrated to New Jersey, and she set up a whole new life for her family, my grandparents, and my grandmother was a modern day hustler. I mean, she bought a home of like those big, like 4-story homes in New Jersey that have multiple units within a home.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and she said my grandfather thought that she could never do it on her own. And she was like, I'll show you better than I can tell you.
You know, it's funny how you can have these 2 or 3 key people in your family that kind of can set the course for everyone else. You know, I watched this series on the History Channel called The Men Who Built America. And it's like about like the Carnegie family and, you know, J.P. Morgan, all of these names that we hear throughout history. And it's because that one person did that one thing, their whole family was straight. Not that that's the case with us, but,
right.
You know, just imagine had your grandmother not went to college or dropped out, you know, or she not had purchased that building or whatever. You know, that could have set your family down a completely different path.
Exactly. And that's why I think about, again, back to trajectories. Unfortunately, you know, COVID-19 is going to force a lot of parents and students to make different choices for college education. I just don't see how, you know, some universities will be able to open up and bring students on in August, and a lot of universities won't. And then a lot of students who may have made the choice, unfortunately, to go to a Howard back, you know, last December, they might have to make a different choice because of what their family situation is. I hope that they will be able to come to Howard, but choices that you make put you on a trajectory of life.
So, I mean, to your parents, you never tell me about them.
Oh, yeah.
Who are they?
They met at Johnson C. Smith. They went to Johnson C. Smith University in...
That's a Black college, right?
That is a Black college. It is a private Black university, in Charlotte. And that's where they met.
Okay.
And they did what I think a lot of people did in the 70s. You go to college, you immediately get married. I mean,
So is okay. Okay, I just wanted to see. Okay, so you come from a college educated family. So you get to Howard, and there's obviously not just a college educated family, but they have a sense of pride in being Black and educated. I guess we could say that. So you
yeah.
get to Howard, you at the Mecca, seamless transition. What's your mindset when you get to Howard? Are you thinking, I got to join this organization, I got to take over here, I got to get these grades, I got to meet these people? What are you thinking when you first get to Howard as a freshman?
When I get to Howard as a freshman, I said, I just need to be able to thrive, not survive. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't have like written down, I got to do this, then I got to do that, then I got to do this. But I also knew I was a long way from home, or at the time it felt like a long way from home.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to take full advantage of this Howard experience. And then because I went in with that mindset, I was open to the things that I like stumbled upon. So one of the first things I did was I joined student ambassadors, because I believe it was a student ambassador that came to my high school. And I knew, it was like, oh, those people had so much pride in their university. I knew I wanted to do something very similar. I didn't know how all that looked.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I then stumbled upon, all the things that I ended up joining and doing. It was because I like thoroughly enjoyed it. I had like a sense of pride.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I wasn't going to do something just to
So
do
student ambassadors, that kind of also, you kind of forced to learn a lot of history about Howard too, right?
Yes, because you are doing, at the time, you were doing the tours on campus for students, parents. So
okay.
you need to at least have some situational awareness about Howard University. And most importantly, even if you didn't have all the facts, they just wanted you to ensure that you could sell Howard. You were literally an ambassador of Howard.
So what, if you could run me like some of the organizations you were involved in while you were at Howard?
Student ambassadors. I was a team leader in the School of Business.
Oh, team leader. So we got to discuss that. Team leader.
Absolutely. I knew I wanted to be a team leader my freshman year. I just saw the team leaders come in. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be one. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know what I was all going to take, but student ambassadors, of course, Phi Sigma Pi. That's how I met you. And you also, I don't know if you remember, Josh, that you and BJ lived down the hall from me and Tamika and Gia.
Yeah, we did. Yep, we did. And you know what? I got Gia's husband. He's gonna come on the show.
Okay, good. Gia got to come on the show too. I told her to come on the show.
Connect me with Gia. I don't have her info.
Okay, gotcha. Alpha Chapter, Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Okay.
And then that was one of my, of course, most exciting experiences. And then I was also in the student council in the School of Business.
Okay, so it's safe to say you came in, you were ambitious when you got to Howard. Is that correct? Or did you just stumble upon these organizations and just?
I'm going to say I was ambitious. However, at the time, it didn't feel that way. It just felt that I was focusing in and doing things that I really wanted to do. So it didn't feel like stress and strain. And I think when you start doing things because you see other people do it, or you think that's what you're supposed to do, that's when it feels stress and strain. That's another piece of advice I would give to my 18-year-old self. Remember.
You're spoiling the end of the interview, LaTonya.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Spoiling. Okay. So, you know what? As the oldest of three, and I know you got one sister, Patrice, who I'm cool with. She went to Howard, became a lawyer. What's your other sister's name? Crystal. And she went to Hampton. Did she go on and get a master's or a law degree?
She's a doctor.
So what type of pressure did you have being the oldest? Because when I look at what you've achieved, and then we also see that your sisters are very successful. Did you feel like some type of responsibility? Like, I'm the oldest, I got to do X, Y, and Z. Were your parents like, because I do tell my son, like, hey, your sister's looking for you to do the right thing, or for leadership. Was that something that, was taught in your house, or something, that was placed on you?
No, not that I
No?
can remember.
Interesting.
Mm.
So, well, I guess that explains why your sister went to Hampton. You failed her. You failed her mightily. So,
I'm telling you, people that went to Hampton, I got a lot of friends that went to Hampton. Love y'all. And it's all HBCU love. But oh my gosh, people went to Hampton. They generally, they are Hamptonians for real. I mean, home by the sea. I mean, they're real like watery people who connected to water. I mean, they just have their own little like carved out life. It's interesting.
Yeah, I made a donation to Hampton because I did. Howard played Hampton from the Chicago Football Classic, so I did a party and I donated a significant amount of my proceeds to Howard and to Hampton for my event. But shout out to Hampton. Good for them. So let's talk about being a team leader in the School of B. What is a team leader, and why is that significant? And y'all was getting paid. I didn't know that.
Really?
Y'all so sneaky. Don't try to act like you was overworked and there was some pennies, because y'all was getting paid, and I didn't even know that until I had somebody else on here who was a team leader, who was like, "Yeah, we was getting paid." I was like, "What?"
It was. Excuse me. It was a stipend.
Whatever.
Okay, so it was not.
My mom sent me $20 a month. Okay, my mom sent me $20.
I don't even remember what it was. I didn't go through my stuff. I might still have it. May have been.
My mom sent me $20 a month. All right, I'm sure it was more than that, but go on.
It may have been like $100 every 2 weeks. I'm telling you.
Oh, I would have killed him with $100. What? Oh my gosh! If I would have had $100,
maybe I don't know. But anyway, a team leader. So in the School of Business, all freshmen are put into business teams. So it's because there's a part of your freshman orientation as well. It lasts a whole year. So a part of being a team leader is you are like literally leading a small team of freshmen, and you are supporting them through their freshman orientation sessions as well as business orientation. And then corporations adopt a team. And this is a lot of times, this is your first experience. Now, I was in Inroads in Charlotte, so I was already exposed to different types of business. But for a lot of people, this is their very first experience and exposure. So corporation would adopt your team. I believe Cigna adopted our team at the time, and they would come down maybe a couple times a semester. We would actually do a visit to Cigna. This is your opportunity to see business at play, like real time. They provided a scholarship potentially and internships. So
what made you want to be a team leader though? All that stuff you just said?
I just like the way that the team leaders presented themselves. I like the fact that it was an upperclassman, a sophomore.
Not even a real upperclassman, a sophomore.
Not even a real upperclassman. But when you're a freshman, you feel like everybody's an upperclassman. So a sophomore who seemed to be polished and had an internship, and I too didn't even know about getting paid. I didn't even know that.
I'm just salty.
So I got into it. Yeah, but it is intense because you also have to, as a sophomore, you have to live in the freshman dorm. So I lived in the annex my freshman year.
Did they give you free tuition though?
No.
Or free room and board at all?
It was like half room and board.
Man, that's huge, though.
Yeah, it's huge. So half room and board, and then you got a stipend.
And you basically, is it safe to say that's like your first time leading people?
Yes.
Man, and these are your peers though. These are your peers.
Right, and that makes it 1,000 times harder.
Man. That's so cool. So were you able to get internships from being a team leader?
Yes, I did not. I'm trying to think. Yes, because I worked at Cigna my
Oh,
sophomore
okay.
year going to junior. I worked at Cigna. You know, some of my
So it's safe to say that that was a big move that paid off dividends. Not only were you leading and gaining skills, things to put on your resume, you're getting compensated, getting free housing, and you're networking. You know, you guys kind of got the first dibs on all the good jobs, all the good internships,
all that. But
all
it's
everything.
back to what you were saying about Mr. Gray. All these things are now colluding together because
Hmm.
for people obviously who don't know, Mr. Gray passed away back in 2008, I believe. But
Yeah,
he was an essential part of the School of Business. I mean, he was I forgot what office that they would consider him a part of.
like career,
Career, yeah, he ran the career program in the School
and
of
then it
Business.
was like insurance, something he did. But
Yes,
whatever his title was, it really didn't. It was smaller than what he was, what he meant. You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like it was like if you was a freshman or a sophomore, I mean the value that he just brought to that school and the way he made you feel, you know, he just really empowered a lot of us who were kind of like myself. I was clueless about a lot of stuff,
And you
but
know, 22 years later, when I'm updating my resume, I still have Mr. Gray's voice in my head about how to do your resume.
well, he'd be like quantifiable. You want to have numbers and how you
Yes,
grew this.
but it resulting in.
Yeah,
So even
yeah.
when I'm people ask me if I would edit their resume, I'm like, sure. And I'm always redlining and I'm always saying, okay, and so what? Resulting in what? How many people did you support?
Hmm.
What was the dollar amount that you impact? All that by man 22 years ago, and how he taught us and reiterated to us still sits with me today.
So when you know you said only 3 folks from your school went to Howard, right? Or
From
went to
my
HBCUs? Was that what you said?
No, from my class, my senior class, it was three of us that went to Howard. There were a lot of people that went to
Okay.
HBCUs.
Like oftentimes when I would come home from winter break, you know, you get with your friends who come from their respective colleges and y'all talk about y'all experience. And inevitably those friends that go to those PWIs, they say, man, well, you know, the world is not black, or Howard don't have the same resources of X, Y, and Z. What do you say to like a senior or a junior that's making a decision on what school they want to go to, and it comes down to, well, the world isn't black, so why would I go to a black college? Or y'all don't have the resources, why would I go to a school that, you know, doesn't have the state of the art this type of cafeteria or X, Y, and Z? What do you say to that person?
I tell that person they're going to regret it for the rest of their life. They're going to regret
Why? Why are they
it
gonna regret it?
because what you're going to learn at a HBCU, at a Howard University, at a Morehouse, at a Central, at an A&T, insert any HBCU, you're going to learn the life skills to be able to go into society, especially like corporate America. My experience is only with corporate America. And you're going to have the passion, and you're going to have the determination, and you have the confidence to be able to work with and be around a table of people where you're going to be the only.
So
In
what
my
about people like myself who, when they graduate, you got like culture shock when you go into the real world, corporate America, when there is no other black folks, you know, or there is no Mr. Gray. Hey, can I talk to you for a second? Or Miss Hampton, you know, there is none of these people who you
True.
can vent to, you know. What about that? Because I struggled. That's why I never worked in corporate America longer than I had to.
Josh, I wish you would have reached back, because this is exactly what, like, you had it already within you. You did everything that you learned with with the hustle with Phi Sigma Pi and A in the School of Business, in the A building, and all of that. I know at the time, because it doesn't translate exactly the same, and I didn't figure that out or realize that until like several years of me already working. Like, I already got it within myself. And Michelle Obama, she says it properly in her book and in her speeches. She says, you get around the table and people that seemingly have more education, more experience, more everything, they have no idea what they're talking about. You are just as qualified or even more qualified to do the work, period.
Yeah. So you become an AKA. I want to talk about that, being an AKA, because you at Alpha Chapter, Howard University, all these women want to be AKAs. And you know what? I want to ask the question, why is it that so many women at Howard either want to be an AKA or a Delta? Why is that? Without offending somebody.
I can only speak on my experience, and I can only speak on Alpha Kappa Alpha. I think a lot of it, because you have a lot now. For me, my mother and grandmother were AKs.
Damn, you just come from the Smithsonian Museum. Your family just straight from the Smithsonian.
No, my aunt's mother and grandmother were AKs. So
damn, your aunt and your grandmother. When I got to Howard, I did not know nothing like what AKA, Delta. None of this stuff was.
And that's what I'm saying. That is a lot of people's story.
That's crazy.
It's a lot of people's story.
That's crazy.
And so when you ask, why do people want to be AKA? So if that is not your story or exposure, you get on campus, you see how alpha women operate, how they present themselves, what the sorority is about, just not even, because obviously your first experience is probably on a college campus. But then you should take like the next step and start knowing like this is like a worldwide organization, and to see how we replicate the same experience everywhere. So yes, a lot of women I will lean towards being an AKA.
So when I get on campus, when you get on campus, especially on Fridays at noon, I mean, you see all of the Greek. I mean, you just, not just Greeks, but now at Howard, it's a Greek thing for everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody got something going on, and it's great to see because it just shows how diverse Black people are. And I always tell people, Howard, that was the most diverse thing I ever been in. Even though it was all Black, it was just so many layers of the Black experience in one place. But when you're there at noon, it's just so great to be there. Number one, I mean, how did it? Well, number one, okay, if I want to join one of these organizations and I'm a young lady and I don't even know better, you know what I'm saying? I don't even know better because it's a lot of unwritten rules. Am I right? It's a lot of unwritten rules. I remember walking to the calf one time on a Sunday, cutting across the yard. I'm talking about it's like 4 people on the yard. It's like Sunday. I'm going to get breakfast. I walked across the Delta's plot. I didn't know they had a plot. I didn't know none of this. I was a campus pal though. This girl pulled my arm. She like 5 feet tall, like small. She like, you can't be stepping. I'm like, what you talking to? I'm thinking she like trying to talk to me or be funny. She like, you know what you did. You know what you stepped on. You a campus pal. You know better. I'm like, what are you talking about? She was like, you know what you stepped. I was like, I'm still like, what are you talking about? Like what? Like I didn't even know what she was talking about until like maybe, I don't know when I figured out what she was talking about. But as somebody because then you see like when we graduate from Howard, you see all these people become Deltas and AKAs. And you're like, damn, why didn't you do it at Howard? But I feel like they violated codes they didn't know about, and they lost their opportunity.
Yeah, I think that is a complex.
It's a tough one.
Complex, yes, because there could be a variety of reasons why it didn't work for you. It happened for you at a college campus, especially now, because I believe in 2000, I remember 20 years ago, I was a part of a group of people. We were talking through, like all the Penn Health organizations were coming together, talking about putting a cap on the number of people that could pledge. And so that did end up coming to fruition because there is a cap of 50 people. So if you got 700 girls.
Damn, 700 girls.
Punch, there's 50 spots.
So now it's a cap of 50.
all Greeks on campus. Yes, it is a cap of 50. And that has been for a while.
Man, that sucks. I mean, it sucks if you like 51st. If you in the top 50, you really don't care. So I mean,
but I think that women should join or.
But LaTonya, but let's be honest though, it means something to do Alpha Chapter.
Absolutely.
Versus Alpha Gamma baby Omega Chapter. You know what I'm saying? Like
yes.
Alpha Chapter, that means something, and I didn't recognize it when I was in college. But as you get older,
yes,
you like, damn, that means something. And I didn't realize that until I got older. But I'm asking you, maybe if you said 3 things that you should consider if you want to join one of these organizations, these are 3 things that you might want to think about,
as an undergraduate at Howard.
As an undergrad who doesn't know, because it's one thing if you got your mother, she's or your father were in it, they might say, hey, you might need to go talk to this person. You need to go research this. You know what I'm saying? If they having a rush or interest meeting, don't wear no baggy, dressed up this way. Keep it, but I feel like there are things that people don't know. But these are organizations I think are important for people later as they want to network with people. You move to a different city,
Right.
You can meet, different folks. And I think it's a different type of respect that you get, whether people admit it or not, when you say you're from Alpha Chapter or you did it at Howard University. That's just.
I think the first thing is you have got to have academia and academics like at forefront. It doesn't matter like what organization, like you got to have good grades. I mean, that's just step up. I mean, we are a organization that was founded by college educated women who had a commitment to higher education to be able to succeed in academia. So you got to have the grades. I mean, that's just off top. If the minimum GPA, the university says you can have a minimum of 2.5, why do you want to have the minimum? You need to have more than the minimum, which means you have got to excel in academia. Number 2, you've got to do some self-reflection on why you want to be a part of this organization. If you just see, yes, you see the step show, and yes, you see Fridays on the yard, and yes, you see homecoming, but those are just small little pieces of the puzzle. Like to be a woman in Alpha Kappa Alpha and to be a part, this is a lifelong commitment. There unfortunately are so many women around the world who become insert any type of Greek letter organization, and then they say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I renounce being a part of it. What? I mean,
it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
What?
It's a lot of work to be active in these organizations.
It is.
It's money and it's time.
It's time. It's time. But the good thing about the sorority, I mean, once you are an AKA, you're always an AKA, right? And it does lend itself that, because your life is going to take so many twists and turns. I mean, this is the reality of it past college, because there were years that I always paid my dues, but I couldn't like physically commit, mentally commit. But I knew if I did that minimum, then when life corrected itself and I did have the time and capacity, that I would give it my all. So that have the academics, know why you want to be a part of the organization, and then find a friend on campus, find a friend that also wants to be okay. And you got to figure it out with yourself, because I can't, the same advice I may would have given back in 99 or 2000 is totally different now on a campus in 2020. Lots have changed. Culture has changed. I mean, and young people, they've changed in the past 20 years.
What was it like to come out on your probate? Like, what was that experience like? Because I remember just every time, Greeks come out, especially the women, man, you just see so many beautiful Black, amazing. I mean, you see pink and green everywhere.
Yeah.
You see all ages. You see like unity. It's like the birds are chirping. Like the flowers are, it's like,
And it was a sunny day for us.
what was it like to know that I'm about to be in this organization? I'm about to shut the yard down. What did that feel like? Walk me through the night before, like getting ready and then coming out. Like, what was that like?
I mean, you're a ball of nerves, of course, because there are going to be a whole lot of people who have no idea, who are going to be completely like, I was just in class, and then all these big A's came out of nowhere. So, that, and then I just remember just feeling like I was on just cloud nine. People are yelling your name. They're like screaming like of excitement. And then knowing that
Was your family there?
my sister, but Patrice hadn't gotten to Howard yet. She was a senior in college, high school. My sister Crystal came from Hampton.
Was she an AK? Or is she AK?
She is AK, but she wasn't AK at the time because she was just a sophomore, maybe.
Okay. Mommy and grandma there?
No, they didn't come to the pro show, but they did come. My mother came to the pinning. She pinned me.
Nice. Great experience, man. So now you got all these sisters. You're a part of this great organization. What year is this? Are you a junior?
I'm a junior.
So you're a junior. So that forever changes, I'm sure, your senior year. I'm sure by the time you become a senior, you kind of got Howard figured out at this point. Yeah. You got socially, you're a leader in the School of Business, student government. When you graduate from Howard, do you have job offers on the table?
Yes.
Whoa. So what do you got? What's on the table? Who's fighting for you for that talent?
I definitely had an offer from Cigna because I had interned there going into my junior year and senior year. Mm-hmm. And then maybe I interviewed a couple other places. I can't really remember. And then I had an offer, which I ended up taking, to work at GE Financial.
Oh, so GE Financial. Where's that?
It was, GE Financial was headquartered at the time in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
But this was a leadership development program. So I literally moved every 6 months for 2 years.
So was this, and what are jobs paying at that time? What's considered a good financial offer back in, is 2001 or 2000?
In 2001, the majority of us our offers were from $38,000 to $40-some thousand. And we thought that was a lot of money. And there were some people who got offers at Accenture doing consulting. Their offer was for like $60,000.
Man.
And we were like,
man. So, okay. So that's what the money's like back then. In leadership development, I mean, how can you pass that down? Because that essentially says that you're being groomed to make more money and get more responsibility. So sounds like a great opportunity. Now, was there ever a point in going to GE? Did you feel like Howard prepared you for this moment?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Okay, without a doubt. Was there ever a point when you started? Now, wait, did you have mentorship at this point when you started your professional career?
Yes. So interesting enough, I worked at Cigna, but the campus lead for Cigna ended up being my mentor, who then turned into one of my good friends, who then turned into my travel buddy, who now is like my neighbor.
Wow, so was this
Debbie? I still, she's known me since I was 19 years old, right? And so that was a relationship that started off being a mentor-mentee, because she went to Howard. She graduated from Howard in the early 90s. And at the time, I mean, we're only 10 years apart, but at the time, she just seemed so much older and wiser. And so I appreciated that. And then at GE, we were matched with mentors, but I made sure that was one thing I did on my own was find a mentor in every single one of my rotations, because it was not all roses and peaches. I mean, I had some very difficult rotations. I will never forget my rotation that I had in Chicago. It was very difficult. I worked with difficult. The manager was difficult. I felt very isolated. I felt very alone. It was the longest 6 months of my life.
And you came out and you said 01, right?
01. Mm-hmm.
So that's the time when 9/11. So it's a lot of drama taking place in 01.
Yes.
So tell me about the toughest experience that you've had in corporate America that you feel comfortable with sharing. Because I mean, you've been in corporate for quite some time, and you've had leadership roles. You working. Are you working directly with the chief operating officer at your company now?
No, so I'm working with her chief of staff. So it's what we call the CO executive office, and so she has actually two chief of staffs. Her VP chief of staff is like her strategy chief of staff. So we are focused on all things finance, workforce, technology, and ensuring like the strategy of it all is like ticking and tying together. It's like being the second brain of the COO, who is a Black woman, by the way.
Cool.
CEO of Fannie Mae is a Black woman. And I do think obviously all of my experience leading up to this point have had to help shape me to be able to be in this role, period. There have been some difficult times in corporate America. And it seems to, I think my most difficult times, the ones that are come to the top of my head, those were the times when I felt the most isolated, where I was literally the only, and I could be the only female, the only Black person. Those are very, very difficult, because if you don't constantly, you got to like self-talk yourself sometimes. And the times when I stopped self-talking, the times when I started doubting was the times it felt like things were crumbling apart. But that's when you just pull back and say, all these people are not the smartest people at the table. Their thought isn't the only thought. Their voice should not only be the only voice. And that's why I tell people you have to show up every single day. Every single day, you just have to show up. You have to start over every single day. And most importantly, never forget who you are and whose you are. And most importantly, like, don't crumble under the pressure to try to be something other than what you are.
So there are multiple instances where you felt like, I don't know, like did you feel like your career was going nowhere? Did you feel like what made you feel isolated? Like you didn't have a voice?
I didn't have a voice, or when I did try to have a voice, that it was being diminished, that my opinion wasn't valid. And when you're in an environment where you don't have a cheerleader that can support you and like verbally support you right then and there, you can feel completely diminished. That's why I always, especially in meetings when there's only, especially for women, where there's only maybe one or two of us, but and it could be a lot of men, I always try to validate the opinion that is being offered by the minority in the room.
How long were you at GE?
I was at GE 4 years.
4, okay. So
Yeah.
that's quite some time. And how far up did you advance?
So the first 2 years is the leadership development program, and then the last 2 years, I did like a pre-management like role, and then I went back to grad school.
Oh, okay. Grad school. So you end up back at Howard, and you're there as a full time.
Full time, yes. And then I was in grad school, And then I did my summer internship in New York at Citibank.
Okay.
And that was a hard experience too.
Really?
Living in New York was hard for me. I think Patrice, my sister at the time, she was in law school, and she had some internship in New York, and we actually lived together in one of her friends' apartment in Harlem. So it was a fun experience, but it was hard. I realized that I felt like at that point I knew I was like an urban suburban girl. And when I came back to school the fall, I said, you know what, I got the job at Citibank because I needed to make sure I had a job. But I knew I was going to pursue other experiences that could potentially keep me in DC, which I did. And that's when I landed in consulting. And I was at IBM.
Wow. So why go back and get an MBA? And why go back to Howard? Because, when you look at advancing in corporate America, or getting a big check after an MBA program, generally the thought is to go to like one of those U.S. News and World Report top 10 type of MBA schools, like a Harvard or, NYU, something like that, or Stanford or whatever. Why did you go back to Howard for the second time?
I considered all of those things. I think I applied to Maryland. Maybe I applied to Georgetown. I can't really remember. But ultimately, it came down to dollars and cents.
Mm-hmm.
And financially, I just could not see the value in X amount of debt for insert school, for which I probably was going to receive probably a very similar experience. Now, obviously going to HBCUs, that's just a whole different shifting experience. But my hypothesis became correct because when I graduated from Howard's MBA program, I was sitting right beside students who went to UVA, Georgetown, Maryland, and we had the same offer going in at the same place. Now, that is not to knock those other universities. I think those are great schools. I think that those experiences are great. Just for me, it wasn't the type of experience that I thought that would propel me in a place in my career that having a Howard name wouldn't do as well.
Makes sense. I just find that interesting. I know that a lot of times when you're picking grad school, that's kind of like a business decision. Is there such thing as an HBCU experience at the grad school level, or is it just night and day?
Absolutely. I mean, people always ask me, well, you went to Howard undergrad in the School of Business and now you're in the MBA program. Isn't it like copy paste? No, it is totally different. I mean, a graduate level education, it moves at a way faster pace. It is way more competitive because you are taking yourself out of a work environment to come into an academia environment for 2 years. So that's 2 years of income that you lost. That's 2 years of all type of experiences that is on pause. So yes, this is not playtime.
Mm-hmm.
It is
and then
time.
And what's MBA, getting an MBA can be very expensive. What can someone expect to pay, let's say, for an MBA, a 2-year MBA, like a range?
It's so much different. I mean, so when I graduated, when I was at Howard for the MBA program in 2005, 15 years ago, I think the tuition a semester was like $9,000 or $10,000. I think it's double that now.
Per semester. Wow. So you're looking at like $100,000 just on tuition. Just on tuition.
Yeah. I mean, just even like undergrad. I remember because I found an old bill. I think my last year at Howard, in 2000, 2001, I think the tuition a semester was like $4,500.
Wow, man.
It is not that now. So it is undergraduate, graduate,
So let
professional programs. I mean, it is a financial commitment.
let me ask you this then. So, in the midst of let's say Corona virus extends, and they don't open up schools, let's say to the fall until the spring or next year. What is the competitive advantage of a black school if you can't physically go there and get your education?
It's
A tough
so
question. I know
it's a tough question because I can end my experience, your experience, the people who went to school just last year experience of stepping on a campus. We are very, we like to do things in groups. We like to commune with people face to face. We have created experiences that are clearly in the whole in the box of being together. It's going to be difficult for you notice that the only schools that have said yes, we are bringing kids back on campus in August have been like really big PWIs, because I think that they can have the infrastructure to turn it on and turn it off depending on how the virus is going to spread or move. I just think that is so unfortunate. I just don't know how you tie up the value of online experience to the cost of how it's going to be associated with it.
Yeah, that's tough. And I hope that all of this stuff gets solved, because so much, 99.9% of my experience, you can't do that online. You might get a Howard degree online or whatever, but that's one thing. You get an executive education and you 45 going back to school. But when undergrad, I don't know. I just hope that this doesn't, like you were saying, like it's people right now, families are being affected because they got to make decisions. And, it's not just families, but the legacy of Howard is being impacted. Because if I'm a parent, I'm like, hey, online is online. You know what I'm saying? I could just send you to a Big Ten school that's in the state, save money, versus sending you to Howard, because you're not going to get a quote unquote Howard experience. So all while doing this, you're getting your MBA, you get your MBA from Howard, you're working in corporate, but you're doing a lot of stuff outside of just working and going to school. You have your hand in a lot of social or civic organizations, and not just being a member. You're also taking leadership roles in these organizations. What talk to me about some of the work that you've done, and why you feel like it's necessary for you to involve yourself in those things.
Okay, I think outside of course, AKA, which moved with me, in my heart and spirit and physically, financially, even post Howard. I think the first type of community-based organization I joined was the Junior League of Washington. And I joined because Di Brown, who went to school with us too, I figured, I don't know how I knew that she was in the Junior League. I don't remember. But I saw an advertisement for, at the time they did a big holiday shop. It was their biggest fundraiser. And I went. And I was completely blown away on how these women, the majority of white women, how they were coming together, organizing themselves, and raising a whole lot of money. And I said, I'm going to join. And it was not because, and I think Junior League has a beautiful mission. It's great. I encourage people to do it if they want to do it. But I always knew I was going to take what I learned with the Junior League of Washington, and I was going to bring it back to like AKA or some other type of Black organization I was a part of. I just couldn't figure out what that looked like. And Di Brown was my sponsor. I got in and I ended up meeting like one of my best friends even to this day. And so that experience, I did not go into it saying, I got to meet a best friend. I didn't go into it saying, oh my God, I've got to meet like new people. I went into it because I wanted to figure out and learn like that structure and why I couldn't apply that to some of the things that I was already doing at AKA. Because I want my sorority to flourish. I want our foundation to flourish. But they were figuring out how to raise a whole lot of money, whole lot. There's no reason why we couldn't like do that same type of experience. So anyway, that's when I joined the Junior League of Washington. That's why I joined the Junior League. And I ended up staying well past my 7-year commitment. And then I became a sustainer because life shifts and my focus needed to change. And then I became a member of the Links 4 years ago.
And
now
these are important organizations in Black history, and these are also organizations that not just important, but it's like they, you know, I don't know how to say this, but like it's levels. So like, you know, you got certain organizations anybody could be in, right? Then you got other organizations you might have to be invited in, because I'm in an organization here called the Chicago Druids, and you got to be invited in. If there is no, where do I sign up? I'm interested. Somebody literally has to be like, hey, we think you be an asset to our organization. And, you know, and it goes back to that whole Jack and Jill question I asked earlier. Like, you know, because sometimes Black people are accused of being, certain Blacks are elitist, you know. I don't think that hasn't been my experience, you know, because we do a lot of great work, you know, and, you know, sometimes you just want to be around people that are like-minded, and it's nothing more than that. So I guess what I'm asking is, you know, was it the Links? You got the Junior League, you got AKA, and even within AKA, I'm sure certain chapters are different from other chapters. You know what I mean? What is that like? Do you ever feel, does that question ever come up? Like, oh man, y'all just a bunch of bougie Black people, and you went to Howard, and your grandparents are educated. You know, are you cognizant of the history of these organizations that you're joining?
Very much so. And I think that when you join these, when you get invited in, like you're right, a lot of these things as adults, you have to be invited. It's not like you see the flyer up on campus and it's an interest meeting, right? And I think you have a greater responsibility to both not play into those stereotypes, but to show really, again, why these organizations were even founded and what their mission really is. So I get, if I'm going to commit to it, I'm going to commit to it, right? Because your time, your treasure.
People don't sometimes understand the amount of
a treasure that it's not to say that it excludes people, but the cost is what the cost is to be able to keep it going.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. Being a Black woman, achieving these things, being involved in these organizations, how has that affected like dating? And you live in DC. You live in DC, right? So dating. Sometimes I hear that I hear things. I hear that Black women got to choose between being a mom and their career, or Black women they want to get with a Black man, they gonna have to settle for X, you know, for somebody less than or whatever. do what do you think about any of those things? That do you think being a successful Black woman can hinder you from socially, I guess, if you want to be with a Black man? Or do you say that's not something that I worry about?
I don't think so. It's not something I worry about. I was listening actually to this podcast the other day. Dead ass. Do you know what is their names? Kadeem and somebody, this married couple. Anyway, they got this podcast, and one of the things that they were talking about was he was having a podcast with some of his friends, and they were talking about Black men, the statistics of Black men marrying other Black women. Anyway, he ran down statistics, and whatever study was done, I think it was by Yale, like 70% of Black men in the top 9%, and they consider top 9% are college educated men that make, I think, $100,000 or more. This is what this study was. Like 81% of those people married Black women. I don't play into the narrative that there are not enough Black men, that I should lessen myself, for lack of words. I do not accept that. I think that the question is always posed to women as if we are supposed to shift and adjust.
Especially Black women.
But we don't put that same level of standard with men.
That's another show.
That's another show. And so I cannot accept that. I don't think that anybody, I obviously have a lot of friends who met their spouse at Howard, or they met their spouse, post Howard, or they met them in grad school. I mean, we meet people in all different ways and situations, but I think for all women, I just refuse to believe that women should settle.
Cool. So I think that's an important question, because it's talked about a lot when you go to like not house parties, but get-togethers, and you just end up at family events. You just end up talking, and you go back. Oh, you still single? You got that whatever. And even when you watch the shows like Insecure, those different topics come up. So I thought I would bounce that off you. So what about right now? Tell me about what you're doing right now in your career.
Well, right now I'm like all of us, and I think this is so important to say, because like for generations to come, like they'll need to know what happened in this space in 2020 and why we're like seeing things like in people's homes and all that, because it's so important. Like life has fundamentally shifted for everyone, right? And so I'm fortunate enough in the type of work I'm doing, in where I work, it has been like as if we were in the office. Like we were already a very semi-virtual firm. Everybody who's on my team, half those people already lived and worked in Virginia, and we're in offices in Virginia, and we're not in the DC office, and we did everything just like you and I are doing right now over webcam. So work in that way hasn't shifted big time. It's working from your home, which is a personal space, which now you're working from home, you're living in your home, you're having all of your other commitments happen in your home. It can be overwhelming because you don't have filters to be able to turn it on and off. So that's what I'm doing right now, is keeping the wheels on the bus, but also, again, I've been telling everybody this, and I'm going to just keep saying it because I don't know what it looks like, but all I know is I am not just going to survive, but I'm going to thrive. I don't know what that looks like, but I believe it in my heart. And I think that's in all things in my life, especially in this type of environment. I have been able to pick up more writing. I started doing some professional blogs and some professional articles years ago. I completely fell off. I have gotten back on the wagon. So I'm going to start posting those pretty soon through my LinkedIn page.
Nice.
I also might take on teaching a class next semester.
Cool.
MBA program, we'll see.
Oh, that'd be great.
And so, I mean, those are the big things but the writing piece is very important to me because my writing has tended to lend itself for young women that are coming out of college or early career women. I was very blessed and lucky to have some really good mentors and good role models along the way. And I just feel like there's a gap right now in role models for young Black girls coming out of school, coming into corporate America. It is so incredibly difficult.
What advice do you give to the 18-year-old LaTonya or Leroy coming into Howard that it wants to go into the School of Business, wants to be, well-rounded while they're on campus, wants to have fun, but also wants to achieve some of the things that you're doing and even go beyond that level? What advice do you have for them?
Don't ever doubt yourself. Don't let those seeds of, well, I don't know, I may not be good enough. What happens if? Don't plant that in your head, because if you start planting that in your head, it's going to take root and it's going to stay with you. And then it's just going to become like this nasty root in your head that's going to be very difficult to cut off as you get older, for sure. So if you can keep that out your head, and what is for you is for you. Like, be on your own journey. And comparison is like the greatest death sentence for anybody. It is so easy to say, well, I didn't get to this place when I was at school, or I haven't achieved X, so I'm not worthy enough. Don't do that. And I have to share this. I had an experience just a couple years ago. Someone at my job approached me about taking this particular job to be the chief of staff. And I gave her all the reasons why I couldn't do the job. Wow. And every single reason I gave, she said, "And so what? And you learn. Okay." That opportunity.
So wait, did you take it?
Because I talked myself out of it. Because
the chief of staff, is that who that's who you report to now?
It was for a different role, a different chief of staff for a whole different other division.
Okay.
But the woman that came to me telling me, "I think you need to do this role. You should really apply." It was her job. She was moving on to a different job. And so she wanted to help select who her.
So are you regret that, or are you happy with that?
Yes, I do have some regret that I did not do that.
Man.
But where I am today, I'm happy though. But I will say this: I will never make that choice again. I will never do that again. I will never and I know this. And this is what I'm saying, like, even for young people, 18-year-olds coming into school, we are sitting here giving this advice, but believe me, we have to live our advice too. So sharing it is also helping me to remember. And I will never forget that experience and opportunity.
Man.
Never. And trust me.
I'm surprised that you did that, given what I know about you. That's
me too.
How does the alum of the year or the MBA program turn that offer down? That's did you consult anybody before saying no?
Because I think it was also to the way, because again, all the things that was ticking down were all negatives, because I saw her. That was my experience of watching her. And this is why role models are so important. And this is why it's so important to have brown people that are doctors and lawyers that can be advocates for you when you're in the hospital or in a courtroom. All these are all playing together. I didn't have a good line of sight in role modeling of how she particularly operated as a chief of staff. And so I thought that's how, even though she's a great person, I love her, but I saw all those things as negative, and I never focused and rooted down on what the positives behind it.
I see.
We'll
Let's
have
talk about legacy then. You know, you come from a great family. You know, sounds like your great grandmother. Well, I don't know if your grandmother, who was born in 1917, was
Mhm.
kind of the anchor of your family, and she set the tone for a lot of things. And I'm sure she would be proud if, I'm
Mhm.
sure she is proud if, to know that her efforts were not in vain. What about your legacy? 100 years from now, in 20, was that 2117? What are we saying about your legacy, or what would you like your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be a daughter from Howard that did not accept surviving but thriving. And most importantly, she wanted to ensure that she didn't do it on her own, but she also wanted to make sure that people came along for the journey and the ride too. In whatever their journey is, whatever their journey is. That's what I want my legacy to be. That you can give your time, your talent, and your treasure, and it may not be all at the same time or at the same equal amounts, but you gave something.
So Jeopardy, real easy. What year was Howard founded?
1867.
Good job. I had Asha on here yesterday, and she said 1859.
We know I so wrong.
Man, and then she was like, wait, no.
Baby, so she had a lot. She juggling a lot.
And then she was like, oh, I was Miss Howard. It's gonna be easy. 1859, and I was like, no. Oh, you know what? My bad. 1857. No. 1867. But anyway, what is the Howard motto?
The service.
Oh, very good. Finish this sentence. Reared against the eastern sky.
Reared against the eastern sky. They're up on Hilltop High.
Proudly there on Hilltop High.
Proudly there on Hilltop High.
What is the Black National Anthem?
What's your voice and sing?
I think we had to learn that in Phi Sig. I think we had to. Y'all made us sing that like a million times in a row. Finish this sentence. I'm so glad
I went to Howard U.
Okay. What is the zip code of Howard?
20059.
What dorm did you stay in?
Annex, Cook, Quad, Towers.
Which one was it your freshman year?
Annex.
Give me the address of the annex.
Something 4th Street Northwest.
That's wrong. So that was wrong. Who was Howard named after?
General Oliver Otis Howard.
Very good. You did pretty good. Maybe I'll make these questions harder. I try to make them a little bit easy so that people can get them wrong still, and I can make fun of them and put it on Instagram. All right, so rapid fire is homecoming, and with rapid fire, you got to give an answer, just a one-word answer, or whatever comes to mind when I say this particular word. So, is homecoming better as an alum or as a student?
Alum.
Favorite Howard moment?
Biggest failure in life is saying yes when really I need to say no.
Good one.
I read a quote that said, when you say yes when you mean no, you're disrespecting yourself.
Wow, that's deep. I need to post that as a
I'll text it to you.
Yeah, text me that. That's deep, because I need to tell some people no. My employees be like, "Can I have this day off?" I'm like, "Sure." In my mind, I'd be like, "Hell no." Sit your ass down. Highlight of your career?
Highlight of my career is having my voice heard and feeling empowered.
The Howard experience
is like no other.
Like no other. Specialist or a woman of many talents?
Woman of many talents.
One of these you got to start, bench, or cut. Graduation, charter day, or homecoming?
You got to start graduation. You can bench homecoming, and then you got to, I guess, cut charter day.
Wow. Well, LaTonya, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks
for asking me, Josh.
If there's a young lady, young man that wants to follow you, maybe ask you some questions or get in touch with you, because you told me you thinking about starting a blog, right? Or you already have a blog. So maybe if they want to follow you.
My LinkedIn platform to do some of my blogging. But yes, please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think it's a great safe place, I think, to communicate and collaborate professionally.
Cool.
I'm on Insta and Facebook too, and Twitter.
Nice. So they can find you on those platforms. You've been a great guest today. Thank you for coming on the show. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.